to meet you, man.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to getting into Dream River, your world of music. So I've played it on the show. I love it. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. So before we get into the music, I want to know this.
Yep.
5 years ago, this pandemic changed so many things for all of us,
Yeah.
rearranged, especially for musicians in the jazz community. How
Yeah.
did you get through that era, and how did it affect the way that you make music and do things today?
I mean, one of the big things was I was supposed to actually go to Eastman in 2020,
Yeah.
and the pandemic hit, and I auditioned like a month before literally everything shut down, and we were still like in the audition, like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? We don't know. And then everything shut down, and they were like, yeah, and Eastman was still running, and they were like, you could come here and do all your lessons from your dorm room. And I was like, I don't think I want to travel halfway across the world to sit in a dorm room and like just do stuff. So one of the big things was I had to like defer my Eastman time by a year. And then the other thing was honestly like being chronically online during the pandemic because everyone was online and everyone was looking to find some social connect. It was the beginning was really great because everyone was like, oh, this is a great time to practice and stuff. And then soon it became like one of those things where like it was only output with no input,
Yeah.
where like you're just sitting there trying to work stuff out. And yeah, there was all of this time, but I think one of the big things about making art that a lot of people don't talk about is that you need to go out and have some experiences and meet people and I don't know, like live a little. And the living part was not really happening that much. So I think halfway through the pandemic, I was just like, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna, instead of trying to make music all day, I don't cook a meal or maybe deep clean my room or go out for a walk at night when like no one's outside or something. And I think that was a big shift because that was a big adaptation of like, oh, and a big realization that like, yeah, you can sit at home and practice your craft all day, but like if you don't have any input to make the art about, like the craft is basically just a tool that has nothing to work with.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting way of putting it. So, talk to me a little bit about this album, Dream River. What was the vision? How does it feel?
I mean, so first off, like beginning of time, like there was a time when I thought I was gonna be a musician as a teenager, but then I didn't. And like I was in my head, at least I was like, oh, I'm not good enough to be a professional musician. I'm just gonna like be a hobbyist forever. And then I went to design school, and then it so happened that I joined like a rock band in design school, and like that band kind of took off, and I was out on tour doing all of this stuff with them. And I was like, oh wait, it's actually happening. And then life got up and stuff. And then I had this car accident in 2015 where I went blind. And it was the irony was crazy because I was studying to be a graphic designer
Wow.
as my thing. And I went blind and I was like, whoa, I guess time to commit to the musician thing for real. And it was a scary jump. But as I got more and more into music, I kind of found and fell in love with jazz slowly over time. And I kind of like started making my way back from what's happening today to back in the history. And that led me to Eastman. And this group, the Sonic Alchemist, was my way of bringing all of these influences I've had over time. Because while I love jazz, I also love pop music, and I have like a pop group, and I love R&B music, and I love rock music. And for me, the best part about jazz, at least like the way it's happening right now, is that I've seen so many examples of people bringing in different flavors into their music. Like if you look at Robert Glasper, where he brings his whole hip hop world into his jazz, or Lionel Loicky, who brings all the African music. So jazz became like this perfect backdrop, and Dream River is like the culmination of those 6 to 7 years of exploration of jazz and all these other styles trying to come together.
Take me back to your beginnings in New Delhi. How did music become a part of your world and coming to America? How did all of that kind of evolve into where you're at now?
So I think My family is not musical in the sense that no one really plays music in my family. I think when I was asking my dad, he played the tabla when he was a kid. And then I think my great grandmother used to play the sitar when she was like alive. But apart from that, no one really plays instruments in my house. But we were still a very musical family in the sense that we always had the radio on, or like my mom and dad both had like big collections of like CDs and cassettes, and they were all just there for me to like go and play. And things like, oh, like a ideal birthday present, like I think when I was 9 or 8 or something, like my dad gave me a Walkman, and like that was the first time I was able to like have my own music, so to say. And it was small things like that that slowly like trickled into like, oh, I think I want to do tabla lessons, or oh, I think I want to play the guitar. And I actually started off on the drums. I think I was always a very percussion first person, but the big part about drums was that I could not write my own songs on the drums. At least back then I didn't have any examples of drummers doing stuff, and that's how I picked up the guitar. And when the band I was talking about a second ago, the rock band in college, I was playing bass with them. So it was always just like, oh, I want to be involved in music. And I didn't really care about what instrument I played as much. It was more like, I want to be part of making music. And in 20, what was it, 16 or 17, I was doing, there's a really good school in India called the Global Music Institute, where I got enrolled and I was like, okay, I want to take this more seriously and study it for real. And I was doing both drum lessons and guitar lessons, but my primary instrument, so to say, at the school was drums. And my teacher at the time, his name's Tarun Balani, he's a jazz drummer. And his brother Aditya Balani was the guitar teacher, and I was studying with both of them. And my drum teacher came to one of my guitar gigs and had this very tough conversation with me where he was like, man, I see you play the guitar and you have like a connection that I don't think you have with the drums, to be honest. Like you're fine, but he was like, for what your goals and what you want to do, where you want to just create music that speaks to you should switch over to the guitar. And at the time, I was furious. I was like, what the hell? I've been like sitting here shedding all day, every day, and you're telling me that I should switch now. But as like my initial pushback like kind of went down, I saw like the reason and like the value in that. And I went back to the same idea that I was like, actually, I never cared about what instrument it was. I just want to make the music I want to make. And if the guitar is actually a better vehicle, let me explore that. And one thing led to another, and then the idea of committing to jazz and committing to a style for a while is what brought me to America, because America, as like the land where jazz first happened, was like, okay, if I wanted to study Indian classical music, I would go to India. So the same way, if I wanted to study jazz, I was like, I should go to America. And I applied to a bunch of schools, and Eastman, I had like a really good experience at my audition at Eastman with my teacher there, Bob Snyder. And that's how I chose Eastman. And then I came here, met the wonderful people in my band through school, and yeah, we're doing this now.
I love it. So, talk to me a little bit about what gets you up every day. Why do you love being a professional musician?
Well, honestly, the idea of sitting and because I think there are two parts. There are parts about being a professional musician that I absolutely wish I could stay in bed about, like all the ancillary stuff we have to do today. But every time I pick up the guitar and every time I sit with my piano to write music, or every time I go to a concert and feel like from the other side what's happening, or every time I'm up on stage, it's like that's the snapshot of that feeling of either creating something or like telling a story through music, or trying to put out just energy into the world of like, okay, we want to bring this to life, and then actually seeing it slowly come to life over time is, I just think, a super rewarding experience. And to add on to that, like when you play live improvised music, just the experience of going on stage and you know what's going to happen, but at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen. And every time something cool happens on stage, just like it's the biggest jolt of like good energy that goes into your system. And that's what keeps bringing me back to it.
So, talk to me a little bit about what was the first live jazz show you ever saw that blew you away, that maybe made you think, I want to do that one day?
Oh man. I think the first one that like completely blew me away, there's this French trio called EYM Trio, and they were in India and they like were touring India and they came to my music school back then and they did a gig at the local jazz club. And it was just the synergy between those three people. It's like I really couldn't believe, like, even though I knew deep down that it was improvised, I was like, this kind of synergy of like having a band of three people who've been playing together for years who can like complete each other's sentences was just amazing. So I think that would be the first one, is EYM Trio.
So, why do you love this music we call jazz?
Oh man, why do I? Well, first and foremost, I think in general, at its root is the fact that it's an open art form, both in terms of like when we go on stage, it's open to whatever the moment brings. And two, in a lot of ways, I know there's some pushback in certain sectors of it where like the kind of definition of jazz is pretty hard to pin down. Like, I mean, I feel like we could all ask like 10 jazz musicians the definition of jazz, and they'd probably give a different answer. And I don't know if any one of them is right or wrong, far be it from my place to say. And in a lot of ways, I still feel like just on like the periphery of jazz, somehow I still like I'm trying to be comfortable even calling myself a jazz musician as like an outsider who's been doing this, not like I didn't go to high school for jazz or anything. But I think the openness and at its core, like when it happened back in the history, like it was a form almost of rebellion, which like to me as a someone like it really appeals to me. Like openness and rebellion usually don't go well together, but somehow jazz makes them work.
So, at the end of the day, if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one jazz show or one concert, where would you go? What would you love to have witnessed?
Oh, the no questions asked, the second Miles Davis quintet
Yeah,
somewhere in Europe. All of those bootlegs are like some of my favorite recordings with Herbie, Wayne, Tony, Ron, and Miles. If I could see that group play, that would be it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone you play with on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I mean, to me, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who wants to make stuff and go out and play music and be part of stuff. I'm like there are like sometimes when I hear other people talk about myself, it's very like, oh, what? That's who are they talking about? But to me, I'm just a guy, normal guy. I wake up every day, I make a cup of coffee, sit down with my instruments, play for a while, and just try to put out like I think my biggest mission that I've found in the last few years is just to like spread some joy in the world through music. And I'm just a guy trying to fulfill that mission one small baby step at a time.
And we need that so much, especially now in these very weird days, especially in
Yes.
America. It's very necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to pick up a copy of Dream River, catch you live, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place to go?
So I have a Bandcamp page, which is ishansood.bandcamp.com, and my website, ishansood.in. And yeah, that has most of the stuff. If you want to buy a copy, it's off of Bandcamp. And if you want to just stream the music, it's streaming everywhere.
Okay. Ishaan, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for,
much, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
yeah.